Welcome. Today is March 21st, 2022. You are part of the Rowan County Commissioners meeting here in Rowan County. We are grateful for your presence here today, and we hope that you find your day profitable as we will as well. So welcome to all of our guests. It's the tradition of this board that we start off with a couple of things. We're going to have a prayer from our Chaplain Taylor, if you want to make your way up. This, for our audience, is called a solemnizing prayer. And it is held at the beginning of the meeting. It's for the commissioners. It's not for you. You're welcome to listen along if you like. What we do here, we take very seriously, and we seek wisdom as we look to make decisions that's in the best interest of everyone in the county. So after following that, we'll have Pledge of Allegiance, but Chaplain Taylor, if you come forward, commissioners, if you'll join me, we'll get started.
Lord, we thank for this day. We thank for the county commissioners. We gather here tonight. We pray and thank for the dedication they have for Rowan County, Lord, and the many hours that they put in for this meeting tonight. I thank for the job they do all the time. Pray you give them the wisdom they need tonight. God's blessing upon them tonight. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You don't have to stand in the corner no more.
I know. Thank you, Chaplain Taylor. Appreciate you being here as always. All right, commissioners, we've got additions and deletions. You've been given a list of 5 items that would be item letter T, U, V, W, and X, or they're listed there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's being requested that we add to the agenda on the consent agenda. So is there a motion to approve adding those to the consent?
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Pierce, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, then any deletions from the agenda? All right, then do we have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. All right, we have the minutes from March 7th have been provided for us. We've had an opportunity to look at those. Any corrections? If not, do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
And a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. And then do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended?
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we're going to move on to our first item, item number 2. And this is, we got a couple of special recognitions to meet tonight. So we've got with us, I'm kidding, Salisbury High School ladies state champions. If you guys would stand so we can give you a big round of applause. Well, let's talk a little bit about your run. So here we have Coach Bryce is with us here tonight. Coach, raise your hand. And you've got 3 other coaches with you. Would you introduce your coaches to us, please?
Also got a sports keeper, and a team manager, Yadtel.
Well, very good. Well, let's give them a round of applause as well. Have any of the coaches been through state championship before? I was setting you up for that, Coach Andrew. I knew the answer to that. I was trying to give you some recognition. Of course, Coach has been over at North He's good friends of the commissioners here and a good guy, and we appreciate the help that he's given, I know. So let's talk a little bit. The principal, Marvin Moore, is the principal, head principal's here. Let's applaud the principal, please. So if you were following in the paper, the semifinal game was the tough one, wasn't it? Yep. So you had a two overtime thriller, as the paper had it, and they beat not just Shelby, but Shelby was the defending state champions, weren't they? And you guys went into double overtime, won by 1 point. Shelby is 22-3 this year and 12-0 in their conference. So they were a pretty tough team, I guess. And then you made it to the finals against Farmville. Where's Farmville from? Near Greenville? Okay, well, hopefully we taught them a lesson. Yeah. So that team was 27-5, no slouch themselves, right? But you guys took it to them early and hard, and you ended up winning that game by double-digit spread, 10 points. Championship MVP, Kyla Bryant. Kyla, where are you? Would you stand for us? So I want to ask something. If you were a starter for Salisbury, would you stand? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They still play 5? Still 5-on-5? Let's give these folks a round of applause. Go ahead and sit down. Now, if you weren't a starter, I want to talk to you a second. If you weren't a starter, would you please stand? Now, you keep standing, no disrespect to the starters, but if I was back in school, I'd be standing with you because I was never well, in some sports I was, but I wasn't a starter on a basketball team. What I know about yeah, I made the team. They made me collect the sweaty jerseys afterwards, but I was on the team. What I do know about those who aren't the starters is these are the folks that drive the team to be better. Everyone wants to be a starter, right? And so at every practice, you're pushing hard. You want the coach to see you doing well, but the starters want to keep starting. So you are pushing them. And in my mind, those who aren't the starters are the ones that really push teams to championships. And so I just want to recognize you because you are the heart and soul of a team and pushing the team to greatness. And so we want to applaud you tonight for what you've done for this team. Thanks a lot. Kyla had 17 points and 4 rebounds in the final game. And these guys finished out 28-1. What happened? Oh, did they? Ouch. So who did you not prevail over? Who was it? Apex Friendship. So where were they in the end? Oh, were they really? 4A. Oh, really? Boy, a lot of excuses flying now. So it's a 4A team playing a 2A team. And what was the score of that game? Is that right? Well, that's why I'm always in favor of just 3/4. So.
What you may not know, Mr. Chairman, is that these private schools, they are able to give out scholarships. And I won't say that they recruit like colleges, but they end up with a lot better. They end up with a lot of good ball players in one team.
Yeah, recruiting. Well, good. Well, we've recruited you here, and let me tell you, we are glad that you are Rowan County folks. And, you know, we're not beholden to any high school because we're commissioners for the whole county. But when you leave home, and this is home, when you leave home and represent us out across North Carolina, Everybody's watching. We're watching to see how you do athletically, but also how you represent us as representatives of Rowan County. And everything we've heard, we're just as proud of you, how you represented us on the court as you did in the final score. So we're super proud of you. And we've got some things for you. So commissioners, if you'll join me out front, and if the coaches and the principal and the team, what am I doing?
No, just one more group,
Yeah.
the family and friends.
Oh, I even meant to do that. If you are family and friends of the team, would you stand? You guys did a lot of traveling, didn't you? And that's a big commitment. So congratulations to you. All right, commissioners, if we'll come out front, and then what we'll do, let's first have the principal and the coaches come forward, and we've got something to present to the principal and the coaches, and then we'll greet the team as a group, okay? All right, we've got a presentation to make to the principal and the coaches. We've got a framed resolution from the commissioners. So I'm going to offer this up as a resolution to the board, and I'll make this form of a motion. Proclamation honoring the Salisbury High School women's varsity basketball team. Whereas the Salisbury High School women's basketball team under head coach Rice and assistant coaches Andrew Mitchell recognized and honored for their victorious 2021-22 basketball season. Whereas by their extraordinary efforts, this dynamic and talented team won sectional and regional titles and progressed with an incredible final win, Bay State Championship, ending the amazing record of 2081. Therefore, be it proclaimed that the Rowan County Board of Commissioners does hereby honor the Salisbury High School women's basketball team and coaching staff for their outstanding achievements in March 2022 and Mr. Principal. I like to go to work. Second. All right, that was a motion. There's a second. Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, that's good. Got a copy of this. That extra we're going to get for you. All right, congratulations. And then we'll bring up the ladies here. So if you just want to come up, Mike will present you with resolution, and so we'll start with you. Just come on up. When you come up, tell us your name. Oh. All right.
Mary Morgan. Walker.
I don't know why, but this seems like this is probably a pretty exciting. Fun group. So, Coach, how about some words?
Just goes to the ISIS. I'm just really happy. Excellent.
Okay, girls, I know you're taller than most of the people behind you, so if you get in front of them, your knees are better. So get down. There you go. There you go. You people in the back act like each other and move together. There you go. You don't have to fall all the way down. There you go. There you go. Now move it. Take a knee. There you Ready?
All right, thank you, guys.
About 9.
Actually,
Microphone so we can hear it.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just say one more thing to the girls before we leave. Ladies. You know, I really am so proud of you because of your leadership and dedication, your strengths, your knowledge. And I hope that you will take this forward into life and take those opportunities that you have to be leaders in our community, because we need that, especially for our young girls. So thank you so much for what you do, because you do a lot, even though you don't know all those little eyes that are looking.
Yes, please.
These young ladies truly embody what a student work hard in class, work hard in school, all students really go after it. That doesn't happen everywhere. I want to say kudos to these young athletes. And Coach Bryce doesn't let up. Great time, she's on it. Because she's always right about high school athletics. I want to say that. Our ladies are great. They are great.
I think everyone up here would tell you that your body won't last forever. So, right, Kevin?
We're not talking about it.
So develop your mind, because your mind is what you'll rely on. All right, well, thank you guys. Now,
Girls, I want you to know that I'm the only commissioner up here that watched you play this year. I had no doubts you were going to win the whole thing.
And it's Women's Month. How I said, and it's Women's Month. Oh.
Yeah. Hasn't been a little bit of a downer.
Well, we have more celebrating to do, and the chairman has asked me to read this. Proclamation, March 2022, as the 50th annual March for Meals Month. Whereas on March 22nd, 1972, Richard Nixon signed into law a measure that amended the Older Americans Act of 1965 and established a national nutrition program for seniors 50 years and older. Whereas Meals on Wheels established the March Meals campaign in March 2002 to recognize this historic month, the importance of the Older Americans Act nutrition programs for congregate and home delivered, and raise awareness about the escalating problem of senior hunger in America. And whereas the 2022 observance of March for Meals celebrates 50 years of providing an opportunity to support Meals on Wheels, programs that deliver vital and critical services by donating, volunteering, and raising awareness about senior hunger and isolation. And whereas Meals on Wheels in Rowan County, North Carolina, has served our community admirably for 46 years. And whereas volunteers for Meals on Wheels are the backbone of the program, and they not only deliver nutritious meals to homebound seniors and disabled citizens who are at significant risk of hunger and isolation, but also care and concern and attention to their welfare. And whereas Meals on Wheels Rowan provides nutritious meals to seniors and disabled citizens throughout Rowan County that help them maintain their health and independence, thereby preventing unnecessary falls, hospitalizations, and/or premature institutionalization. And whereas Meals on Wheels provides a powerful opportunity for social connection for hundreds of seniors in Rowan County to help combat the negative health effects and economic consequences of loneliness and isolation. And whereas Meals on Wheels Rowan and its dedicated volunteers deserve recognition for the heroic contributions and essential services they have provided amid the COVID-19 pandemic, and will continue to provide to seniors and disabled citizens in Rowan County long after the pandemic is over. Now, therefore, the Rowan County Board of Commissioners proclaims March 2022 as the 50th annual March for Meals Month and urges every citizen to take this month to honor our Meals on Wheels programs, the seniors they serve, and the volunteers who care for them. Our recognition of and involvement in the National 2022 March for Meals can enrich our community and help combat senior hunger and isolation in America. This, the 21st day of March, 2022.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Do we have all right, second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So again, commissioners, if Cindy, and you have your board chair with you? Okay, good.
R. Equals. Come on. There you go.
I wish I'm chair of it like it used to be.
All right, public comment. We've got one public comment that is going to be, it was an email, be put in the record from Margaret Stridick.
Stridick.
Okay. And then we've got signed up Michael Julian. Welcome.
Thank you for allowing me to speak today. Commissioners, staff, citizens, and guests. I'd like to speak to you this evening about an issue, not really an issue, but something going on that probably should be addressed to the school board and not here, but I would like to talk to you folks about it also. And that's the school system, the Knox K-8 project. 2 years ago, the school system closed down 2 of our elementary schools, stating that they have too many seats for not enough students. One of those schools, Faith Elementary, was reopened as a charter school and now is busting at the seams when the school system said that it was the most expensive school that they had to operate. It is now busting at the seams with a charter school and has a 2-year waiting list, and they're talking about expanding the school. So I wonder about being the most expensive school if the Faith charter system can operate it basically with the same budget. This K-8, Knox K-8 project, when it was first discussed 2 years ago, was talked about being $55 to $56 million to build. Recently, the price tag of that has gone to $79 to $80 million. And I would not dare to say that by the time this project gets off the ground, it's going to be $90 to $100 million. The school system just a month ago asked the commissioners to sign a proclamation, not really proclamation, allowing them to apply for a grant for up to $40 million. The problem with that is if the school system only was to get $10 million of this, then the county is going to be on the hook for the remaining 70, 80, $90 million, whatever the price tag it may end up being. I'm afraid that if the school system and the county funds this project, it's going to cause a major tax increase on property taxes and other things. And I'm afraid that we may be mortgaging our children's future with projects of this magnitude. Really believe that the school system would be better off, and again, this is something that should probably be addressed to them, would be better off with some new elementary schools instead of a large K-8 building within the system. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Michael, for being here. All right, let's see, we'll move on to continue the quasi-judicial hearing for SUP 02-22. So anyone that intends to speak or testify during this needs to come forward, right?
And already.
Okay. I didn't know. Will that stick? Okay, if you've not been sworn in at the last time, yeah. All right, let me read you. The hearing for consideration of SUP 02-22 is now in session and will focus on an application submitted by Deborah Wright to accommodate an event center on her property located at 3425 Oregon Church Road, further identified as tax parcel 378043. If you feel that any member of the board may have a conflict of interest in hearing the case, please address the board now prior to any testimony or information being presented. When the board enters into deliberations to decide the case, no further testimony may be presented. The board will render one of the following three decisions. 1, approve the permit as requested or with additional conditions. 2, continue the request. Or 3, deny the request. All parties who plan to testify in this case may come forward and be sworn in. Those who testify must state their name and address at the podium for the benefit of the board's clerk. All material presented must be given to the clerk and will become part of the record. This board can only accept sworn testimony. No hearsay evidence is admissible. And Aaron, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is a continuation of the hearing from February 21st for SUP 02-22. The owner and applicant of the property is Deborah Wright, and it's located at 3425 Oregon Church Road, tax parcel 378043. So to kind of sum up what was talked about at the last meeting, the major concerns that seemed to arise were concerns that the rental cabins made the use a little too intense, that there was questions if the owners had legal access to use Double Thumb Road as their point of entry. There was talks that the site should have a secondary entrance for emergency access. There was the request to move the entrance to be off of Oregon Church Road instead of off of Double Thumb Road. And then the request to add additional screening for the property line adjoining property at 135 Double Thumb Road. So this was the original request site plan. So the things to kind of point out here, these were that was a 2,400 square foot event center with a pavilion, bridal suite, and then 6 rental cabins. They were to go along with it. The access here was coming off of Double Thumb Road, which is a private drive. They had a gravel parking lot, a couple of outbuildings next to this fenced in area, and then an overflow parking lot here. And then to the northern property line, they had a type A buffer, which was going to be 5 foot on center evergreen shrubs. And then since then, they have altered the site plan to address some of the comments that were brought up at the last meeting. So right off the bat, you'll see that they have moved an access to be off of Oregon Church Road. And now this access off of Double Thumb is labeled as an emergency access that'll be gated. The rental cabins have been completely removed and they're no longer for consideration with this special use permit. The rest of the event center area has remained the same 2,400 square foot building, pavilion, and bridal suite. There has been a slight alteration to the accessory structures here along the fenced in area, just kind of moved where they're at. The type A buffer has been continued to now screen the use from 135 Double Thumb. And then the parking lot itself has had the gravel area extended to now facilitate 47 parking spaces. And then a couple things that we noted is that the overflow parking was pulled off the site plan. So we're not sure if they intend to keep the overflow parking. And then on the site plan, there is mention up here, it's a little hard to see, but it talks about that the parking will be set by the site planner. I just wanted to make sure that there was on the record that the parking that's proposed in this site plan here is what will need to be on the site, that alterations could require coming back to the board. So just kind of getting a little bit of a closer look at the site. The driveway itself is a 24-inch or 24-foot gravel access drive going back to Oregon Church Road. And I reached out to Eric Goldston with the NCDOT, and he did tell me that he's seen the plan and that they would approve access off of Oregon Church Road. Eric Goldston with NCDOT. I reached out to him to ask him about the access off of Oregon Church Road, and he said that they would give them access off of Oregon Church. But they did say that they preferred the access off of Double Thumb. I do need to put that out there.
DOT did?
Yes, Eric Goldston with DOT. I had some emails with him, and that's what they informed me of. And then I did go out to the site just to kind of get a look at what we were looking at, the site distance out there. And the top two photos here are looking from the access at Double Thumb, because there is that sharp corner right there. And then the bottom two are approximately where the new access is planning to coming out. I think it's a little bit further down, further away from Double Thumb than it actually is going to be, but you can see it's a little bit of a difference to how that site, how the site distance is going to look out there. So as far as the use itself, there are 6 specific criteria for an event center. And that's that the minimum lot size needs to be 5 acres, and this is 9.94. There must be 35 feet of road frontage, and it has 104 feet. The operational area must meet 100-foot setback from all property lines, and this proposal does meet that. The parking, there must be adequate off-street parking. The table of uses requires 28 spaces for this use, and they are providing 47 gravel spaces. The lighting should be designed to prevent glare on adjacent residential property. And they are proposing to meet those standards. And along with that, they have the type A buffer along both the property lines with the adjoining residential structures. And then they must meet the requirements of the noise ordinance, and the applicant has been made aware that they would need to meet those requirements. So these are the 6 specific use criteria that all special uses must meet. And then as far as procedures, you've been provided some example findings. We need 3 separate motions for findings of fact. And then we can look to approve with conditions, or deny the SUP 0222. And then if you have any questions, both me and the applicant are here today.
But there was something in the write-up about access where this road zoning ordinance has road frontage requirements to ensure certain uses can access off of a road maintained by the state. It's staff opinion that requiring road frontage for a use implies that access for that use must come from the road frontage. But did I hear you say that that may not be the case? And
Yeah, so the original request, they didn't, while they had their 35 feet of, or they met the 35 feet of road frontage requirement, they were going to access off of Double Thumb Road. And since the last meeting, it was brought, accessing off of Double Thumb Road was a pretty big point of contention. And so they did move their access to be directly off of the state maintained road of Oregon Church Road.
so this is what DOT then, they're okay with this.
DOT did give a verbal confirmation that they were gonna approve access right there.
Okay. All right, anything else for Aaron? All right, if not, would the petitioner, the applicant, would they have anything that they would like to bring forward? You, Deborah?
Yes,
Nice to
I'm
meet
Deborah
you.
Wright.
Thanks for coming.
My husband Wally.
Wally, nice to meet you.
And we are at 3405 Oregon Church Road. I did want to just note on the record, I think all of the information says 3425.
Yeah, it does.
I think that is related to our address, but it's
Might have
actually.
to start all over.
Okay, I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you so much for hearing us again. I know that we, we kind of held it over for another month, and I appreciate you taking the time to listen to us again. I won't go over all the changes in the plan because Aaron did a fabulous job of doing that, but I do think that we were able to address at least most of the concerns that came up in the prior meeting. We added the buffer, the change in the road, and we did just remove the cabins altogether. So I think those were kind of the biggest issues that we had. We did host a community meeting on our property Thursday night, and Peyton was kind enough to come out as well. He's our engineer. And we asked if there were any new concerns or issues, and there did not appear to be any new issues. We even had some positivity about moving the access road over to Oregon Church. So I think that probably was the major piece of contention, and so that has been solved. We did walk the plan, so not everyone came with us, but some of the neighbors came, and we started where the access is proposed off of Oregon Church Road, and we just kind of walked around the property so that they could visually see exactly where everything was going to be. So I just, I guess that's it. We just wanted to let you know that we were able to meet all of those criteria in the zoning plan, and that we were able to hopefully address most of the concerns that came up at the previous meeting.
As the board knows, I wasn't here the last meeting. Are there any other questions that have gone unanswered? This. The only one I have playing catch up is just the noise issue. I was looking at the map. There doesn't appear to be a whole lot of folks around you.
There's two very close neighbors, I would say, that I felt would probably be impacted the most. We have Melanie kind of on the corner. You can see where it's pieced out from a square. And of course, we have the buffer there. And then Frank Jones moved into the piece of property just behind us. And we didn't have that buffer there in the original plan because that house wasn't there actually at the time. So we have extended that buffer for there as well. The barn will be facing away from them. And it was also suggested by our engineer, a couple of things. First of all, to try to build up a berm, a bit of a berm if we can, with the soil that will be removed for grading, and then plant the trees on top of that berm. And so maybe that will create a little bit more of a buffer for them. And also any speakers or anything that we have in the barn, we will be pointing towards Double Thumb Road so that it will be kind of going in the opposite direction. And we do plan to insulate as well. So hopefully that will create a little bit of a sound barrier too.
All right, any other questions for Deborah and Wally?
I got one. Is I'm gonna call it the honeymoon cabin, is it still gonna be there?
The cabins have been completely removed.
Okay, even the one that you were gonna have for the wedding party?
So those cabins were for the wedding party. Originally, the use for those, I know it said rental cabins, but that was kind of never the intention.
I think I'm addressing the bride's suite.
The bride suite, so that is not really an area for overnight stays. It's just a place for
To get ready.
the bride and her
Okay.
party, to do hair, makeup, that kind of stuff.
Okay, thank you.
We like to be pretty. That it?
All right, thank you. Do we have anyone from the public that would like to speak about this? Hi, welcome. Just state your name and your address for the record.
Okay, my name is Brenda Bost.
And my name is Kenneth Bost. And I'd like to not only address you folks, but these folks that live in this area as well. I live at the end of Double Thumb Road. I have 40 acres of land down there that I purchased 20 plus years ago. And when I bought that land, the folks in that area wanted to know what I was going to do with it. Rightly so, because they didn't want any type of commercial operation, housing developments, or anything of that nature in there. They wanted to keep that farmland as it is. My property is in the farm program. Now, with that being said, I'll tell you what happens here. I lived most of my life in Kannapolis, in the Kannapolis County, rather. And I lived on Brantley Road, and I lived on this side of Interstate 85, and I owned 11.5 acres of land there. A great place to live, very few houses in that area. It was really nice. First thing that happens, contractors move in here, start building. Next thing I know, my 11.5 acres of secluded land, there's 74 houses sitting right across the street from me. You folks can go right up the old Concourse Salisbury Highway right now. Take a look and look at the industrial park that's being built. That was right in my back door. I do not want this. This is the beginning of the end. This is how it starts with an organization of this nature. And I sit through a meeting very much like this many years ago in Cabarrus County. Out on Highway 73, there was a lot of building going on out there at the time. There was housing developments, strip malls, whatever coming up. And I'll never forget, there was an old gentleman there, there was a 4th generation farmer out there, and they had run the tax base so high that the man couldn't afford to be there. And you know what the commissioners had to say? They said, sir, it's about time you sold your property. Now, this don't happen overnight. This happens on a very slow process. Next thing I knew over there in Kannapolis too, I was in the Kannapolis city limits. I was a long ways from the Kannapolis city limits. But here I am in the Kannapolis city limits. Now I'm trying to be out here in a secluded area again. And these folks are wanting to put up something that's the beginning of the end for that property. as time passes. Now, I've heard conflicting reports about how many people this lady intends to have for these weddings, but we're going to settle on the last thing, a figure that I heard, which was 150 people with 2 weddings a week. With that being said, suppose everybody drives their own vehicle to this thing. That's 150 vehicles 2 times a week. That's 300 vehicles. And I'm going to tell you, the people in this area are going to get sick and tired. They are getting sick and tired of the traffic as well as the noise. And as you can see, I'm 100% against this issue. That's all I got to say.
Do you live there? You live there?
I do live there. I built a house in 2015, right in the middle of that 40 acres.
And where is that 40 acres?
It's on the very end of Songbird Lane.
It's 1145 Songbird Lane.
Aaron, do you know where that is?
It's towards, it's a little thumb kind of corners around. You can see like kind of on the top of that map, how it corners around there. It'll continue on going back in there. So
So it goes up, makes a dog leg right, and then left.
kind of goes back up north towards there.
And sir, if I might make one other comment,
Yes, sir.
I like to hunt, and I hunt on that property. I've got a hunting stand in the lower corner of that property. There are 2 of these wedding venues near the Lord Stone Church, and I can hear that music rolling through those woods in my deer stand. What do you think it's going to be in a wide open area like you're looking at right up here?
And also, I see the way, and I've been at the hospital. I have a sister-in-law that's dying, and I've been at the hospital. But I see where she's got all this parking. Why can she not turn that around and have all the parking and everything where they will egress onto Oregon Church Road instead of where the way she has it now? Because Double Thumb Road is a private road. And then if they're going to have emergency access out onto Double Thumb Road, that is a dirt road with no way that they'll ever be paved. And then you're going to have all of that dust. If they have an emergency access and they're trying to get out onto that, and as you showed the pictures, that is not a good way to try to get out. I mean, I was nearly rear-ended one day this week, and I gave my turn signal way before I turned left onto Double Thumb Road. And that is a bad area to try to get into. But I want to ask you people, when you get through with your work week, what do you want to do? Want to go home and have peace and quiet for your weekend, to be able to have your family over, maybe to grill out and to enjoy your family? Or do you want to listen to music till all hours of the night, which I think maybe 11 o'clock is supposed to be the cutoff? We were at the Legion meeting on Saturday morning, and I talked to Robert Darconte Jr. He is next to the Ghost Riders motorcycle club right there on Oregon Church Road. And they have to listen to it until 11 o'clock at night. And they are older than we are, but that was allowed to go in there as well. And so they don't have any possibility of ever getting out under that, and they are having to listen to it. And I want to know, would you like to have this in your front yard or your backyard to have to listen to?
And see, once it starts, there's not an end to it. You're ready to roll.
And also, I was looking at a report about the soil on there, and it said the vast majority of the soil has no limitations with regard to the subsurface soil system out in that area. So I was just wondering about the septic system out there and allowing that many people to use the septic system out that way too. And there is water standing in that area out there. If you can go out there and see, and I know that it's been noticed with people out there looking around That is not a very good soil area out in that circle.
With that being said, adjacent to this piece of property right here, there was 20 acres that belonged to my cousin. At 20 acres, there was 2 very small locations that were parked for a septic tank. 2. Right beside that, there's another piece of property that the state had purchased, 6.5 acres, because it was deemed wetlands. It was not fit for anything other than a pond or a park or something of that nature. The next piece of property over is my property. We had to search to find the location for a septic tank. That area is full of bull tower. When we dug my basement, there was more than sufficient amounts of that came out of my basement. So I'm wondering how, and I know these farmers that has worked this area for years and years and years, and they'll tell you anywhere you go in there is wet. And it's hard to be able to do anything with it. Now, how in the world are we going to take 10 acres that's already got a septic tank system onto it, and then we're going to add more to it? How are we going to do that? Is it going to be an engineered system, or what do we have to do? Do we have to get the city limits out there to take care of it? Is that what's next? But keep in mind, this is the beginning of what happens to push out all of your property as your farmland or individuals like myself.
Jay, if your land is in farmland, let's say you're farming land next to me and I just have a 10-acre homestead that I'm paying 65 3/4 on. Does that change the tax rate on farmland as?
No, adjoining uses don't have an, it's the land itself that qualifies for the present use program.
The present use, is that I don't know what the stated rate for that is. Does that fluctuate based on our tax rate?
No, when you get your schedule of values every year for a revaluation, within that schedule of values, they set the value of certain dirt that's in horticulture, agriculture, or other present use programs. So that value is established in our schedule of values at a discounted rate than fair market value.
So if, and it is happening everywhere, is value of land and homes and buildings is going up. And we have a revaluation year coming up. So let's just use a number of 10%. Let's say it went up 10%, just value for your home and your land and my home and land went up 10%. How does, and I think you've already answered this, but I'll ask it again, how does that affect a farmer? And do we set that rate, or is that set by statute?
It's not set by statute. It's my understanding that we set that rate within Rowan County. But surrounding values of non-present use value property don't have an effect on the present use value. That's set independently. So the only consideration is what's the value worth as farmland.
So their concern is that as land and housing prices go up, that they would be priced out of their farmland. That appears not to be the case.
Not in the present use program. That's why it's there to protect
Aaron,
farm values.
Any input on has that tax rate fluctuated over the past 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years?
I think the way it works is it's a discount on the taxes. So I don't believe it's a separate tax rate. It's just you pay reduced taxes on the farmland preservation, right?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. So it's, I don't know the percentage off the top of my head, but whatever land is deemed farmland is a reduced tax amount off of it.
So it could fluctuate.
Well, it's a percentage. So if as I understand it, it's a percentage of what, so if it went up $10 million, it could go up a little bit, but it's a very small amount. I'll look it up. Jay, is that incorrect?
We'll look it up and reconcile our differences.
Okay.
Yeah, it's my understanding that it's $500 an acre, or $575 an acre. Or there's a value established in the
I think that's right.
table of uses and values that we publish every year on which we base our assessed values.
Sir, also a point about Double Thumb Road. When we bought that property 20 plus years ago, that was a farm road. It actually did not have legal access at that point in time. Whenever this deed was searched at that point in time, our attorney found that it was not a legal access. At that point in time, we had to have all the signatures along that piece of property so we could get that made into a legal access. There's only a 30-foot access in there. Pretty tight for us to be able to pass cars in there, but the neighbors don't have a problem doing it. If you put anything else back there, it's tough. We got combines that go back in there, tractors that go back in there on a regular basis. But again, that was originally an access road. It was not a legal access.
So Aaron, as I'm looking at this, Double Thumb Road is really not the emphasis here. It's still coming off of the main road, correct? The only time Double Thumb Road would be used is if there was an emergency, correct? Right. And so there would be a locked gate on Double Thumb Road. So from a traffic perspective, folks who live down Double Thumb Road would have 99.9% of the traffic, considering every once in a while there could be an emergency that would come in off of Double Thumb Road. So is that an issue in your mind?
I believe they kept the
Come up to the podium.
Yeah.
it's my understanding that they kept a double thumb access because there were talks about having an emergency entrance. But so that's why it's labeled as emergency access with a gate. But the actual access is for the use is going to be the Oregon Church Road entrance.
Right.
So do we have to allow you emergency access on our road?
We don't have the actual answer for that.
Okay, the main thing is what we have, the people that live down there on Double Thumb Road. We have widows, we have single people, we have young people, and that's why we were looking at the tax thing. But the main thing is the noise. We do not want the noise every weekend or even during the week. Everybody down there works, and that's why we are opposed to this.
Even the traffic. The traffic's going to be a major issue, I promise you that. And that's not a good entrance wherever they were deciding that'd be a good place to put it. I promise you, the accesses on both ends of that road is going to be dangerous. And if you put 150 cars there, which is conceivable, twice a week, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to have a lot of trouble. And Double Thumb Road, and we'll go back to that one more time. We just lost 2 people down there here a short time back. House burnt down. They could only get 1 fire truck down there. Everything else had to stage up here on a lot of this property to be able to get the hoses and everything down there to be able to do anything. Now we're down at the very end of this thing. What are they going to do for me?
All right. Well, thank you very much. Aaron, a couple more questions. Didn't you say Double Thumb Road is 30 feet wide?
The right of way width they have, the right of way width they have on that is 30 feet wide. I did go out and measure the roadway itself, and the roadway itself is a mixture of is mostly dirt, and it's about 18 feet wide.
Which is standard width, 18 standard width.
We don't really have a standard for an access like that because it's a dirt road access.
Well, but we just went through a couple years ago, all of that rewriting of isn't 18 feet wide what we're requiring now?
Yeah.
But does that only apply to public roads then? Okay. And the people that quote own the road because they live on the road, they are responsible then to widen the road if they want to, correct?
It would be up to whoever owns the actual road there to maintain it and do any kind of upgrades to it.
Yeah.
Is that jointly owned by everyone?
It wasn't clearly established to us what the ownership situation is for that road or what the actual legal access the applicants have to that road. And it still hasn't been made clear.
So if our ordinance says 18 feet, that's so we can get fire trucks and emergency vehicles in and out, right?
That'd have been the motivation behind it.
Okay. So if these folks want to be able to get emergency vehicles back there, then that would be their responsibility to upgrade the road, correct?
I'm not sure if they would have the, if they could just do that on their own without some other party agreeing that they could do that.
Yeah, thanks.
Giving the manager a chance to look. So in our current 2019 schedule of values, they take rent from agricultural property. They have those rates set, and they have 3 different classes of agricultural or horticultural values. So you've got class 3, the poorest, class 2, and then class 1, the best. Statute does cap the value at no more than $1,200 per acre. And so our current 2019 agricultural values are class 3, $815 an acre, class 2, $1,085, and class 1, $1,200 an acre. So I've asked
That's
Chip
not the
Main
tax, that's the
value per
value
acre.
of,
What changes is your tax rate. So every 4 years, they'll set these rates and they don't change.
Yeah, I think I was wrong.
No,
I think I was thinking about the veterans.
So what they may be talking about, there is a percentage discount based on other factors, age, things like that, that may come into play. But our agricultural rates are set in our schedule of values, and the statute does cap those at 1,200. But we have ranges that go below that for poorer soil areas in the county.
So Jay, our people set that 1,200. And you
Because
did,
it's based on what information they collect. Usually they send out a questionnaire, find out what people are getting for rents from or getting for crops. And they sort of gather all that information like an appraiser would do. And then based on that information, they set the rates.
I want to ask
Yeah.
the right, I want to ask Deborah one more question, but Jay, could you, that's a 2019 rate. Do you have a historical rate on that?
I would have to go back through all the schedules. I'd have to go back to 2015 and then before that.
Yeah, I'm just interested if that's changed. I mean, the argument is that as values go up, theirs go up. And
Sure, but right now the statute caps it at 1,200, no matter how good the soil is or how much you're making off the property. The statutes cap it at 1,200. According to the note in our schedule and values, it says, as required by statute, agricultural values cannot exceed $1,200 per acre.
So Deborah, could you come back up? I have one last question for you. And Aaron, could you take us back to kind of your notes of concern for us, the things that either have been addressed? Okay. All right, so the rental cabins has gone away. Now we're talking about double thumb. Does the owner have legal access? Do you know if You all have legal access to Double Thumb?
I believe we do. Double Thumb runs across part of our property.
Okay,
And I think as Mr. Boss was talking about, when it was deeded, the woman who owned our property at the time did the same thing that everybody else did. So
so
That
you-
transfers.
Yeah, okay. But again, that's just emergency access.
emergency
You're not,
Right.
access at this
you're
point.
not having,
We plan to gate that off so that it can't be used unless there's an emergency. That was the whole point of moving the road, was so that this could go away.
so probably everybody's issue here. We look at all this stuff. We've done away with the cabins. We assume you have access to Double Thumb, just like everybody else does. You've got secondary access for emergency. You've moved your entrance to Oregon Church Road. You've dealt with the screening. The last thing that we're gonna have to deal with is the sound issue.
Sure.
And we're gonna have to sit up here and say yes or no to you. And you've got 5 folks that are huge fans of private property rights, but not just yours, but theirs as well.
Absolutely.
And so how would you address, that's what my decision, they speak for themselves, but my decision is going to be based on, you know, how do we guarantee that the folks that live around you aren't saddled with a DJ twice a week in this wedding venue? I mean, we kind of know what's going to happen. So
Sure. And I hope that we get to a point where we're doing events twice a week. That would be amazing, but I kind of doubt. I think that would probably be a max. So the things that I mentioned before, we are planning to move the soil so that there is a berm, and we will have the buffer of trees that will kind of, if you see how the property is, most everybody is in the back part of that property. So the way that the buffer goes around the property will keep it from going in that direction, Songbird and on up in those areas. Again, the barn will be pointed toward the road. The speakers will be pointed towards the road. We will have insulation, and we can look into some sort of noise buffering insulation. I know at my church, we have some sound panels that we use on the inside of the church because it is in a strip and it tends to do the same thing. You know, you've got the band playing, and it tends to carry throughout that building. And so they put up sound panels that go around the wall. We could certainly do something like that. And the other thing that I was thinking back there was, if we put in our own speakers and sound system so that we can control that, you know, I think that we've shown that we are absolutely concerned about our neighbors and that we are willing to make changes based on their feedback. So, you know, should it be an issue, you know, maybe we can limit that to a certain volume control or something like that. By having our own sound system, we can control that a little bit better, I think. So those are kind of my immediate thoughts. I'm happy to take any suggestions that you might have of other people who've done this.
And I got a question. What is our maximum decibels or whatever allowed now for noise ordinance?
In the zoning ordinance we have for industrial uses, set maximum, I believe it goes up to 70 at 11, before 11 PM. But for this specific use, I believe that just the regular noise ordinance from chapter 14 applies. And that would be audible sound at the property line.
Okay, so the sound has to stop at the property line, supposedly.
Right.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I thought we had like a decibel amount. No, okay. Because I guess one of my suggestions would have been to set a maximum decibel as part of the conditional use.
So in the permit for exceeding the noise ordinance, and I could be very wrong also, but I thought that was anything that was over 80 decibels. But again, I mean, you know, how do you control any noise that goes off of your property? Like, does that include the gunshots that go off every weekend in our community? I mean, I mean, everything, you know, there's tractor equipment that's making noise. There's a gentleman who has dump trucks, you know, that go in and out of that road. So I'm having the dirt bikes. I'm just having trouble understanding why some wedding music might be an issue. If it were glaringly, I could see that. I don't want to annoy anybody on the weekends either.
So the Paris Wyke is right behind you? Is that the name?
Melanie, yes.
Melanie?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Paris, okay, Paris Melanie Wyke. Any issues there? Is she here?
You know, I have tried to reach out to Melanie, and it's my understanding that she works nights. And so we have not actually been able to talk to her, but I know that she was aware of these meetings and she was aware of the community meeting that we had. I don't know if that was a work issue, why she couldn't maybe join us. So I have not spoken to her.
What was what was your hours of operation again?
So again, I didn't want to limit myself, so I left Monday through Friday hours that I think we said like 9 to 9 or 10 p.m. because the noise ordinance kicks in at 10, I believe, on weekdays. I believe that most of our business will be Friday, Saturday, and maybe an occasional Sunday. So till 11 on Fridays and Saturdays, and then back to 10 o'clock on Sundays.
Mary, do we have any traffic counts for Oregon Road along that stretch from DOT?
I did take a look. The most recent counts were 1,800 vehicles per day.
1,800? That's the work week?
That's the average daily.
Okay.
Can we put the site map back up, please?
Do you want this one or the one more zoomed in?
I think it's the other one. It's the other one. Yep, thank you.
This is the emergency here. Just the original one that they put in there. That's not.
Amplified sound. Amplified sound with issue.
Oh, yeah.
Is there outside seating around this anywhere?
So the pavilion could definitely have outside seating.
Not permanent outside.
Right. It wouldn't be permanent, but
So if after the wedding, where would they have their dinner and everything?
well, I'm expecting more that they would have the wedding in the pavilion and
Oh, I
the,
get you.
and the reception in the
Oh,
barn.
I get you. Okay.
Did you ever give us an estimate on the cost on the venue?
To rent it,
No, I'm talking about
Build it?
the actual cost of the, what is it, 60 by 40?
yes, it's probably going to be somewhere around 250,000. And that's for the entire plan. That's the grading, that's the entire plan with the barn.
Have you done any environmental research on the soil yet as far as they come out to say if it'll even perk for the number
We
of
had
people?
yes, we have had soil testing done.
Okay.
The only part is along where the corner of Double Thumb Road is. There's a bit that won't perk. It's a very wet area over in there. And right now that's our hay field. So we have no intention of using that for everything else they said would perk.
Got a lady out here who wants to speak. Mr. Chairman, we got a lady out here who's got her hand up.
I think we're done.
Okay.
With you guys, thank you.
Thank
Sorry
you.
about that. Yes, ma'am. No. So if you come up, because it's a hearing, so if you'll come forward. Yeah, thank you. Do we need to swear her in? Okay, perfect. All right, thank you. State your name and your address for us, please.
My name's Jennifer Shue. I live at 1185 Songbird Lane. And I was at the last meeting and I'm here this evening just to let you guys know that I've seen these new plans. I was at her meeting the other night. Noise is still an issue because even in my house, we have neighbors that live on Cottonwood, which is the other little road that's off of Double Thumb. And they've had parties before and I can hear their music in my house and they don't stop at 11 o'clock. And you can call the sheriff's department to come out. And the sheriff's department's busy. I understand that. So they may not be able to come out to tell people they need to turn their music off. And I get that. And I have no problem with that. So it may not always be an issue to where she's going to stop at 11 and I can call the sheriff's department and have them come out and tell her she needs to quit. The neighbor that lives up the road on Oregon Church Road, right past the curve in the yellow 2-story house, he has goats. I can hear his goats at my house. So if I can hear his goats at my house and I can hear the other neighbors' music, And I live behind that 6-acre wooded tract that the government owns. That's a pretty big buffer, 6 acres of woods. And I can still hear their music inside my home. What makes anybody think, regardless of what all she does, I'm not going to be able to hear it? Plus, she's even mentioned about having music outside with bands. So I'm definitely going to be able to hear that. So that's an issue. She's got, the emergency access off of Double Thumb Road. Well, if you start doing that, then that's going to block Double Thumb just like it did before when we've had emergency issues down there. So then nobody's going to get in or out. So then we're all stuck and nobody can leave or come. If she does overflow parking, like in her last little map that she had, what's going to stop those people from, instead of going back out onto Double Thumb like they should, what's going to stop them from driving straight out of her yard right onto Double Thumb Road and going out that way? So it's just going to be more work for those of us that keep up that road. My son is one of those people that keeps up that road. She doesn't help take care of that road. They've never once helped pay to keep up that road. The rest of us pay to keep up that road. She doesn't. They've been notified. They've never offered. They've never pitched in. These are all issues that are constant to the problem. So these are things that we take into consideration when she wants to do this. My family has lived down there for 20 plus years. And it's been nothing but peace and quiet. My mother-in-law is a widow and she lives in the very last house down there. And I've had trespassers down there that I've had to go after before, from through the woods down behind her house. And now I've got this that I'm going to have to worry about people coming down through there and doing who knows what. We have horses. I have other farm animals down there. I can't have people coming down there and messing with my animals. And that's something that I'm now going to have to worry about, because you can't always control all the drunk people. And if one slips out, you can't watch everybody all the time. What happens when they come out and they come down there and mess with my animals? What happens when one of them comes down there and tears up, does something to one of the horses? My children barrel race. A barrel racing horse, a baseline barrel racing horse, starts at $10,000. So who's going to replace that horse? Who gets the bill for that horse? Who gets the bill to put the horse down, first of all? And then who gets the bill to replace that horse?
I think we're kind of going way down the road here now.
It's still points that need to be taken into consideration, because all these things could happen.
Okay.
This is all stuff that I now have to worry about, because I don't know what could happen, because we have no idea what kind of people are going to be there.
Fair enough. All right. Well, thank you. Anyone else? Hi, thank you for coming.
Yes, last time.
Yes, sir.
My name is Benjamin Bernhardt. I own the property just north of the map. This is my son.
Jason Bernhardt, 124 Double Thumb Road.
I've deeded him property. He lives on that property. Aaron, you're good with this thing. Let me see if I can. Yeah, can you get, I want to get on the new map and highlight the upper left-hand corner of it where the evaluation criteria is at. All that fine to the left, that box right there. Can we blow that up where they can read it?
Bernhardt?
Yes.
Yeah, I see you on the map.
That's my property right at the top of the map there now. Well,
Is it 124 Double Thumb?
my son's address. I live at 325 Glover Road, up towards Faith. I own 107 acres down there.
The double thumb, dead ends in your house.
It turns.
Well, turns left.
When double thumb makes the right-hand turn, his driveway goes straight on. And double thumb is on my property where it makes that dog leg right. I'm going to read to you guys the first paragraph of the evaluation criteria because I'm confused. They've said that at first viewing of this map, I thought, well, they solved all the problems. They put in a commercial driveway off of the road frontage that they have, which is a requirement to have a special use commercial property permit. Because off of Double Thumb, none of the other 14 property owners could get a commercial property permit because we don't have road frontage. So for her to qualify for road frontage, that's where the driveway should have been all along, in my opinion. But this says that adequate transportation access to the site exists under number 1. That's the requirement. And what they've got in this proposal says the main road to our property is Oregon Church Road, which is a paved state maintained road. The main driveway to our property comes off of Oregon Church Road. However, you can also turn onto Double Thumb Road, which is a public roadway with 30 foot of right of way. It's privately maintained dirt road. Well, their existing driveway, if you look down lower left-hand corner where it says EX Gravel Drive, that's their driveway. It does not go on to Oregon Church Road, it goes on to Double Thumb Road. You can see that. So that's a discrepancy. And it is 30 foot wide as a right-of-way. We measured it from grass to grass is 17 feet.
And no more.
And that's up there where the emergency access is going to go in. But this is the one that really gets me. If you look on down, it says, this road is maintained by one of the local property owners and is in very good shape at all times. And it is in good shape in dry weather. But here's the one that really got me. Access to the property venue would be from this road and is sized properly for cars, trucks, and emergency vehicles. The vehicles would be able to turn around on our property and exit without issues as well. So it says in their plan, they don't plan to use the new commercial driveway entrance. They plan to use Double Thumb Road. That's what it says in this box.
Aaron, was that the original?
No, it's not the original. This is the new one.
It's on the new one. And I see.
It appears when it looks like when they updated their site plan to change for the new access, they didn't update their evaluation criteria to address that change.
Gotcha. I got you. Yeah.
It's written different than it was in the first one.
Yes.
So, in my personal opinion, and I don't live down there, I've got less of a dog in this fight than everybody else does. But if it takes road frontage to have a special use permit, that should be the road in and out. I have no problem with an emergency access. If God forbid something happened and they needed emergency access, they need to get people in there. But if you put a road off of Double Thumb up there and put a gate right there where the little hand's at, that's where the gate's supposed to go. You put a gate there and there's a road beside of it, what stops cars from driving in that road and then driving around the parking area to the grassy parking, which will be overflow parking? People are going to use Double Thumb Road, whether they intended for them to do it or not, unless there's vegetation planted along that line between Double Thumb and the venue. So I'd like to see that done if you guys decide to pass this for them.
Just one more thing, 17 feet from grass to grass. If it rains, there's about 1.5 feet, 2 foot of that's mud. So now you're down to 15 feet. And you know, we can't pass side by side. We pull over, we let somebody by. So if it, any way, shape or form that comes into play with how you enter or exit the venue, you're basically stopping the 14 families that live there from being able to come and go without a huge interruption.
So I would like for the reading of what or the writing of what I've read to you to be changed. If y'all going to pass this proposal as it's written, it's going to give them main entrance and exit on Double Thumb Road. And that's one of the main problems. Instead of saying emergency access, I ought to say main entrance up there on the map.
Yeah. I was at the last meeting. I wasn't coming to this when I saw the site plan and I thought, well, the concerns were met, and I was going to church council meeting and I read the #1 statement in the corner about 4:30. And I said, this isn't right. And so I'm here because I didn't know if there was something, it was just incorrect or if it was something that might slip through, but we really need to, the only way I could see this at all being okay is the traffic to and from this venue needs to stay off of the right of way, because that's how we come and go. And it's not double lanes. It's even narrower about halfway. I would dare say closer to 14 feet as you get to the front of their house.
Aaron, is that just the engineers?
Well, I might be wrong, but just reading your expression, I don't think none of y'all have seen that. So.
We can't read it.
Well, we couldn't either till I blew it up the size of this paper.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We've got hard copies, but no way for us to read it. All right, anyone else? Hi, welcome.
I'm Carolyn Boust. I live on 1256 Somber Lane. 1256 Somber Lane. But Somber Lane used to be Double Thumb Road also, until we had more people move in, had to name it Somber Lane. And when my daughter-in-law was talking about concern for our animals, our horses and things like that, I guess I kind of come up with a worst case scenario, that what if someone would, get inebriated or drunk or whatever and make their way down to our pastures. We're just concerned for their welfare and our horses. And I've been there for 38 years. I'm a widow. And I want to tell you that the distance between this house and my house is less than 5/10 of a mile. I mean, you can walk. That's how close we are. It's not that spread out. So somebody could actually, come down to do harm to the horses or us, really. And you were asking me a while ago about the lady that lives next to their property. That's why she's not coming to these meetings, is that she's a nurse and she works second and third shift together. And I've talked to her about it. She's talked to me, and she doesn't want this to happen either, because it's right there at the land, and she's going to be, her and Frankie Jones will probably the ones that hear the noise the most. So I just ask you to, consider that. But I also like you to, just take all this into consideration. We're all still concerned about our property values, how this will either bring our values up or down if we decide to sell later on, and if it continues to be there. And And just really, the plain fact about all this is that me nor neither one of my neighbors, which is 13 people, want this to happen because we don't want to lose our privacy. We don't want to lose our peace and quiet. And we don't want to lose our security. And I'd just like to ask you to consider that before you make a decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Maybe we had those 4 young men swear in, we'll see what they want.
Or more?
Ones that are right behind Ed.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak? You've been sworn in?
Last time.
All right, that's good. That's fine. Yeah, you're good.
Okay, we did have the meeting up there the other day, and it was really informed. I'm Frankie Jones. I just built a house right behind them. I live at 135 Double Thumb. You can barely see it up there. It says it's mobile home, but mobile home's long gone. We got a stick built house we just built, and it's for our retirement. This is the last place we're going to live, and that's the main reason we moved out there, for the quietness. Now, I did tell them that, you know, as far as the berm and the trees, that's, if it got passed, that's great. But, you know, we had another meeting yesterday besides the one that we had for the community, and all the stuff you've heard in here tonight is true. We moved out there because you can walk out of my new house, even though we're not even in it yet. I can walk out and I can tell somebody, listen. And they're like, what are we listening for? I said, do you hear it? And it's just the birds. You know, it's so peaceful and quiet out there. And as far as, you know, I didn't realize there was going to be 150 cars either. You know, so 150 people. But anyway, I just wanted to say that, you know, it's a great idea, but I just think it's in the wrong place.
Thank you. We're kind of not double dipping yet. We're not double dipping yet. We still got folks. That's all right. We've heard from you guys, so we appreciate it. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Have you been sworn in?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Last time.
perfect. And your name?
My name is Catherine Chu, and my address is 1185 Songbird Lane. My concern is for me and all of my siblings and friends. If this were to get passed, you know, on the weekends and in the afternoons when we get home from school or work, we want to go out and have a good time with each other. Sometimes we walk up the road. We'll take our animals for walks. Well, what if we can't do that now? We're concerned about our own safety plus our animals. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My name is Blaze Shoe. My biggest thing is I ride horses a lot. Take my dog for a walk, normally go up the road because we don't have very much room to go down at our house. I don't know if y'all have ever met a drunk person. I haven't personally, but I've heard of what they can do when they do get drunk. And if I am on my horse and I'm riding and they happen to jump out at me on my horse, well, my horse is going to flip over backwards, possibly, or lay down. That could kill me. It could do anything to me. It could kill me, paralyze me. It could do anything. There's no fence around property. You know, if I have a dog come out and she goes to attack the person and the fence to protect me, then I can have my dog taken away. They could put her down because they're not going to say, oh, well, that was the dog's fault. You know, I'm one of the people that do take care of the road. Barnhart is another person who helps take care of the road. Like they said, they've never really asked for help, said they'll help, do anything to help. You know, it's always been me and Barnhart and one other person. But those are just my biggest things because you only live once and you only have one life. So I'd rather not have to worry about every time I go out and ride my horse, right up the dirt, right up the road. I have to worry about if that venue is there, then a drunk person coming out and scaring my horse and my horse lay down on me and possibly kill me. Because I mean, that's just not something. I don't know if any of y'all have families or kids or anything like that, but I am a kid to a parent. And I have lost a sibling before. It's hard to go through. Those are just my biggest concerns. So thank you.
Thank you for coming tonight, for sharing. Anyone else? All right. Anyone? All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And discuss. Anyone?
Mr. Chairman and property owners. I grew up on a 16-foot gravel road. It was a public road, but it was still gravel. My farm up in Wisconsin, we pay property taxes to the center of the road. I don't think anybody in the city limits does that, but I know those of us that live out in the country do. I think, like the chairman mentioned before, we're looking at the issue of property rights. And it's a hard one. Because I remember the first house that got built on my road, and then the second, and then there's 10 more. And it's not fun. It's not fun at all. But we had a lot of animals, And I used to, as a kid, ride down the ditches and on the road. So I know what you're talking about when you want to have that quiet rural life. I think you brought up folks that live down Tom Thumb. I think you've brought up a number of really good points. And I guess one that I don't really understand is if you've got a property owner that's going along, that has property along Tom Thumb, and this is directed to the White family, why you wouldn't participate in helping keep that road up. That's kind of what neighbors do. Then you've got the issue of, and this is to all property owners, you've got an issue there with the narrowness of your road. But the state's not going to come in and change that for you. You all are going to have to do that. So when you're talking about trying to get fire trucks in the back and other emergency vehicles, that's your responsibility. And if you want to turn it over to the state, you got to bring it up to code. And that's expensive, I know. I think there have been the fact that there's going to be more vegetation is a very, very good step in the right direction. And I think that, Deborah, if you and your husband would put up just a good old cattle fence around the whole perimeter of your property, then that would help a lot. There's an old saying that says, good fences make good neighbors. Yeah. The other thing is too, is that we're looking at agricultural land, correct? Aaron, this is ag land? Zoned ag land?
Everything out there is zoned rural agricultural.
Yeah. Okay, so because it is, these folks could put up a pole barn tomorrow and not even have to get a permit. Wouldn't have to tell anybody. The graders and the diggers would just come in and start building, moving dirt. I think the fact that the Whites have moved their driveway for their barn, the new barn, event center, was a very positive thing. I don't think that with 47 parking places, I mean, that's something that the owners can control. So, Mr. Chairman, I guess those are my comments for right now.
Yeah, obviously, when we have these, we're trying to balance the community's property rights and the individual's property rights. I actually wrote down one of the things Judy mentioned is the fencing. I would like to see the, if we agree to do it, a fence around the back side of the property so that overflow vehicles can't go onto that road. Also, I'm open to the idea that, I do think people live out in the country and want some relief. Eliminating Sunday operations. I think they said they probably wouldn't have much on Sunday anyway. I think the big thing that I've heard is people worried about security, people wandering off. I think if we get enough fencing and shrubbery around it, that may help that. If we get the fencing up, it'll keep people off the road that don't need to be driving on the road. And as far as the noise, anything outside's got to have a permit anyway. But obviously there's going to be noise. I live on a road similar. Actually, this road's probably better than the road I live on. And we have a neighbor that likes to have, I don't know what they're called, parties, but they're Hispanic. So sounds like the same song over and over all day, but it's not every day. So every once in a while, I don't mind it. So I don't know. I'm open to doing it if we can try to find a happy medium between the two groups.
I live out in the country also, and we have a development and we have ordinances in our development. And some of my friends will bring their folks from the city out, and they think that they have to show them all the automatic weapons that they've got and the bombs of some sort that go off and rattle my barn and scare me to death and everything else around me. So sometimes these things happen, even when you think you've got control of them. The Wrights came back and they have made a new proposal, and they have done their best to meet what was said a few weeks ago about different issues. I'm like Mike, I'd like to see some fencing. I'd like to see borders with fast growing trees. of some sort that would limit noise, would limit folks once they got inside this facility to keep going there. The main entrance that is now coming off of the main road here meets what was a safety issue. And I'd like for us to put a requirement on Double Thumb Road that it be used as an emergency exit only. They deleted outbuildings that were there for whatever you want to call the facilities. But there will be no additional outbuildings there. And the requirement for noise and use of berms, if we can do those things, rights will have done about all that's humanly possible to keep noise down, keep people on the property instead of wandering off into neighbors' property. And so if our permit can be adjusted and have these things on, I would consider it. I'd like to ask the attorney first of all, though, can we be assured by a state employee that they are going to let us use the new entrance? Do we have to have something in writing, or do we make this part of the permit?
We found it different ways in the past. Ed's here, he's got some history with me on these things, but sometimes you can condition it post-approval and sometimes you can condition it pre-approval to make sure that they actually have the DOT permit in hand before you
that's
go
what
through
I'm
making your findings and coming up with an answer. But you can do it either way.
Well, that would be my wish, that this not be approved without something in writing that they do have the entrance coming in.
We typically do require a DOT driveway permit before issuing a zoning permit on a commercial use.
Okay.
So the question is, you can make it a post-approval condition, or before you go through that exercise, you can make it a pre-approval condition if you want them to come back to the next meeting, or 30 days or 45 days, whatever it is, and bring the permit in and then do your
We have to
findings.
keep this open until that point.
You've closed the,
We have an email in writing from NCDOT.
I think the question is, have they issued the permit?
No, we can't get a permit because we don't have zoning approval. They can't issue a driveway permit for someone. Have to approve the use and then we'll take the driveway.
That's right.
One point just to clarify, I think Jay is going down this road. You can certainly have these conditions in place if you wanted them to amend the site plan to include fencing or any screening or additional parking or things like that. I think the ordinance does allow them 45 days to come back. The hearing doesn't have to remain open per se. It can be just a review, an administrative review by the board. And if it satisfies what you think your standards are as a condition of approval, you can do that. Or you can just have your list of things, and as staff, we will make sure those things are provided before we issue the permit. So does that answer?
Ed, while you're up there, I need to ask you a question, please, sir. If we require for this special use permit, the noise ordinance, and if it's amplified music, there is a time it has to be shut down. And if we receive, or if they receive a lot of visits from the sheriff's department for noise violations, can this permit be revoked?
Yes.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Is there a number tied to that, or is that up to us to revoke it?
Be up to you. And I think as staff, we would bring that to your attention, and it would go through a process very similar to what we've had now, sort of a hearing process to revoke the permit. Is that correct, Shane? Yeah. just want to make sure we were thinking the same.
Well, I just know that when we had Reaper's Realm in here, there was a noise issue. And I think at that time it was 70 dBs that was allowed.
And that was a condition of their temporary use permit. So to sort of maybe clarify or confuse, you can set a time limit if you wanted to, that no audible or amplified sound would to be heard after a certain hour. The thing that I will tell you, and you got to appreciate your staff, is we are the enforcers of that zoning condition, but most times we're not going to be the one to go out there and hear that complaint at 10:59 or 11:01 on a Friday or Saturday. So just wanted to offer that. So
Thank you, Ed.
Question.
Well, Mr. Chairman, this is hard part about being a commissioner because you're not going to make everybody happy. And I look at things maybe a little different than some of these other farmers because I'm not a farmer, but I do believe in property rights. And, you know, for these people to have 10 acres of land, are we being prudent to tell them what they can and can't do with their land? Mr. Bossett has 40 acres. Nobody's telling you what you can or can't do with your land. I mean, you're doing what you want to with it, and that's what you're supposed to be able to do. But at the same time, you know, these folks are looking to put a major investment into their property. I can understand a lot of the issues and concerns that y'all have had, and I appreciate you voicing those to us so that we can make an informed decision. But at the last meeting when I was here, we made conditions that we said we'd like to see, and they have come around and changed everything to meet those conditions. So I don't really think it's fair to keep piling on, especially when we're talking about issues that haven't been proven. You know, we kept coming back to Double Thumb Road about using it. They're not going to use it for their main entrance. They're going to use it for the venue off of Oregon Church Road. So they've made that consolation. The fact that it's using it as an emergency road, I think only makes sense, because if somebody down your road is having a problem, if it's medical, if it's an accident or whatever, I would want that road to be available. And that just makes sense to me. But like I said, the hard part about being a commissioner is you don't make everybody happy. You have to weigh out everybody's concerns and just come up with the best scenario you can. And between the combination of Commissioner Klusman, Commissioner Caskey, and Commissioner Green, I hadn't heard from Chairman Edge yet. I'm sure he's going to have some things. If we combine all of these requirements that have been mentioned, like the fencing and these kind of things, I think we can come up with something that would enable you to get along with this property. And if it gets to be a noise issue, call the sheriff, let him come out, make the reports, and then it comes back to the planning department, then it comes back to us, and this permit can be revoked. So it's not like if they start violating these issues, there's no recourse, because there absolutely is. So with that being said, I'll let Chairman Edge make his comments, and then I guess we'll vote.
You'll be surprised and happy to know I don't have a whole lot to say.
I'm writing that down.
You know, 99% of what we do doesn't pit neighbor against neighbor. And so, but the 1% of those that we do, it's very difficult. I've been through a whole range of things in my head since we started this. I wasn't able to be here at the last meeting. The issue of septic was brought up, and we're not so worried about that because the county will decide whether or not it qualifies for septic. They have standards. So if it doesn't qualify, then we won't have to worry about it. They won't let them build. I do like, was it Barnhart's? I did like what they brought up about, because you're right, if someone's parked, say they have overflow parking, I don't know what the topography is. If there's a big ditch, if they could just pull through it, they can't. Is there a big ditch along? So they could just drive right out of the grass. Yeah, and that becomes a problem. And so what you've got then is you've got a family who is creating more traffic than everybody else on that road, and they may not be participating, I hear, in the upkeep of that road, but they're responsible for a lot of use of that road, right? So I do like the idea of figuring out some way of making it not possible for them to come out of that grassy area. It would seem to me that, you know, if you're parked in the gravel area, they've got a little turnabout there, a little roundabout. That's the way you go out. But, you know, I know what'll happen too. So something needs to be figured out there. So I'm with everybody else. If we can come up with some ideas to give these folks a chance and know that you're kind of, hate to say it this way, you're kind of starting out on probation, right? And to me, the big issue is the sound issue. And then we're just going to have to leave it up to y'all to determine how far down the road this project goes. Craig was right. You know, everybody, some folks just have a house in there. We heard from, I know at least one person. Others have farming operations. Some livestock operations obviously are not noisy like other things would be, but yeah, huh?
Not necessarily.
Yeah. You know, I think we get into a stretch when we start, well, so do we have an idea of some of the restrictions that we'd want to put on this in order to make a motion? I think I've heard about fencing on the back of the property. Is that what we're talking about? Fencing around the whole property?
It's like a cattle fence,
What are y'all talking about, guys?
5-strand barbed wire, keep cows in kind of fence. That would be my suggestion. I don't want them to have to build some big chain link fence or anything like that.
Well, I don't want no barbed wire on it either, if you're gonna have people around it. I think cattle fencing is a good idea. It's economical. It's low maintenance. You know, you put your metal stakes in the ground, you string up your cattle fencing and you're done with it. And then if they want to make it aesthetic, they can always put some type of plants in front of it, bushes or whatever to help camouflage it. And to go back to Chairman Ed's concern about people driving across the ditch, if you ran it on down in front of that property, then they ain't going to ride through a fence to get out to the road. So that could be your solution to not having anybody, once they come into the, I'm going to use the word compound, once they come into the compound, you're not going to get back out unless you go back out on that road that goes out to Oregon Church Road. So I think that would be a good requirement as well as the buffering that we talked about for the neighbor that lives right directly behind it. And then, of course, the other requirements that they've already met. But, you know, I would like to emphasize the fact that we are going to pay attention to the noise that's generated. And they might need to adjust their hours of operation to be a better neighbor, which means if somebody gets married at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I don't know that we got to have music going till 11 o'clock. I mean, they need to get on down with their honeymoon. They don't need to stay there and dance all night long. So, but anyway, that would be my suggestion, to be an economical way to contain all the guests inside the compound until after the event is over.
And Mrs. Wright, I really liked your idea of you guys putting in your own sound system that whoever comes in can plug in, and then you have control over the volume.
And to Chairman, our fire marshal's here too. And I think as you're looking at these conditions, you probably need to also think about a condition for emergency access.
Fence, buffering, the noise, time of operation. Do we want to go down that road of time of operation?
Well, I think I brought that up, and like I said, I would, if they're not gonna do a lot on Sunday, then I would at least give a day without any sound. But maybe we also want to think, do we want to set the closing time for noise back a little bit too?
We went out to Morgan Ridge to hear a group play not long, well, maybe everything's screwed up time-wise, but we got out there and I was surprised how quick or how early they had shut down because they've got neighbors as well.
6 o'clock.
Well, no, I mean, it was 9 or 10. I mean, I think it was 10 o'clock. So.
Right up at late.
And even in downtown Salisbury, where folks don't want to get into the country, they want to live downtown, I think there's a 10 o'clock, isn't there?
I believe that's right.
Anyone know?
That's not in my time frame.
I have to defer to 10 o'clock downtown.
Rights, we're trying to negotiate here between you and your neighbors. So 10 o'clock. All right. We have, so what we'll do, we're going to go through these findings of fact and we'll vote on these. And then you'd say something, Aaron?
I just want to make sure that you're aware, because we do have so you did do a 10 PM hours of operation limitation as a condition. And it sounded like the rights did agree to that. The first condition you had about the cattle fencing around the compound and the buffering, we need to make sure that the rights also agreed to that condition as well.
Yes. So we have the buffering issue, which you all had addressed, but yeah, but then the. Okay. No. Well, then you get into are the neighbors okay with a cattle fence around the whole thing?
No.
No, sir.
Probably some type of woven wire fence would be acceptable to everybody. Yeah.
Okay.
Wasn't the main idea is up the road and across the back? I mean, they don't have to put it on the front, I don't think.
Or on the right-hand side.
Well, you don't need it on Oregon Church Road.
Yeah.
So it's along the left side of your property and along the back. And then I just need to figure out some way of keeping people from using double thumb. Okay. Yeah. All right, let me offer these up. These were provided to us by planning.
So what about Sunday? Anybody have any ideas on that?
Well, so I was going to do the findings of fact and then we'd add conditions. Is
Oh,
that
I got you.
okay?
Yep.
So each of these would need to be voted on individually. Development of the properties in accordance with proposed conditions won't materially endanger the public health or safety. The fact request complies with all 6 specific requirements identified in section 21-60 for event centers. Second, as a condition of approval, this plan is subject to submission of an approved NCDOT commercial driveway permit. subject to section 21-63A. Then the proposed structures are subject to compliance with the applicable building code and environmental health standards. And 47 parking spaces are included in the gravel parking lot, which exceeds the ordinance requirement of 28 spaces. So do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Second, the development of the property in accordance with the proposed conditions will not substantially injure the value of adjoining or abutting property, or that development is a public necessity. And the fact is, no material evidence has been presented suggesting this would injure property values. And so that's a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Third, the location and character of the developments in accordance with the proposed conditions will be in general harmony with the area in which it is located, in general conformity with any adopted county plans. Part 1, operations are subject to amplified sound standards from Chapter 14 of the Code of Ordinances, which regulates unreasonable amplified sound. Secondly, the 2 nearest residences will be screened with evergreen trees, 5 foot on center, which is compliant with the type A buffer requirements as prescribed in section 21-215 of the zoning ordinance. And thirdly, outdoor lighting will be located and designed to prevent light from directly shining on adjacent residential property.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, then, as condition, fencing will run along Double Thumb Road. And then I don't know how to state, you've got to figure out something to keep folks, if it's just the fence, but something to keep folks from coming out on the Double Thumb Road. Something, yeah. And then the buffering that's been agreed to, which was part of the condition. And then time of operation, 10 p.m. and Commissioner Caskey wanted to limit that to
I like to see it Monday through
Saturday through
Saturday.
Saturday. We do that? Jay? We do that? All right, Monday through Saturday.
Yeah, thrilled about that. We had talked about having just an emergency gate where, okay, I didn't see that gate.
That gate's part of the fencing, right? The emergency gate, part of the fencing. Yeah.
Is it on the site plan? I beg your pardon.
All right. Anything else?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to disagree with my friend Commissioner Caskey. I think that are you exempting any activity or just sound on Sundays?
I was thinking operations.
Sunday is a day that, yes, some of us go to church and have lunch, but then we're looking for something to do in the afternoon. And I think that cutting off Sunday for them is a little restrictive.
Well, my only thought was behind is that that's going to be a day where there's not going to be any traffic or music or sound. That was only.
Well,
Said you're in church on Sunday anyway, didn't you?
So could I propose that maybe on Sundays we change the hours a little bit?
That's what I was going to say.
And I don't know what specifically would be acceptable, but what if we cut off the music at 6 or 7 instead of, I think I had originally had it at 9. But if we cut the music off a little bit earlier, would that be helpful?
Well, I mean, I don't know.
Well, my only concern is people get married on the weekends and you're gonna take away one weekend day. So I'm okay with limiting the hours. Not so much when it gets started, but when it closes.
Okay.
And you know, if I was thinking 6 o'clock, then that way for those that go to church at night, and when they come home, there's nothing going on there. They've gone to their service. They come home and it's peace and quiet. So, and I don't really, I mean, I hope you're successful, but I don't see this venue being used that much during the week.
No, we had mentioned some classes,
Mhm.
craft classes, maybe canning classes, that kind of thing, which would be, you know, an evening 6 to 8, 9, something like that.
I mean, I wouldn't
And
think
that's a
you'd be
hand.
doing, you wouldn't be doing music for that.
There would
anyway.
not be music, and it
Okay.
would be a handful of people. I'm talking about 10, 12 people for that kind of thing. So
So what time would you start on Sunday?
I was not joking. I am typically in church until 12 or 1, but again, I don't know that I want to necessarily limit myself to that.
Can I say, I'm gonna go with Mike on this. I mean, we're trying to compromise here.
Sure.
And so we've taken, and now we want to give as well. And so I'm going to stick with Mike on this. And I would like us to give the community a break on Sunday. And, you know, it's not to say that if it doesn't go well, we can't come back and revisit that. Everyone says, man, it just went great. You know, we're not having the issues we thought we would have. We'd love to hear that. I don't know that we will or we won't. Maybe we can revisit it later. But as a neighborly gesture, I'd like to see us compromise and let
So-
neighbors rest on Sunday.
So does that include the craft classes and everything?
I don't think so. I mean,
Or you just mean weddings in general?
Large crowds and music is what we're saying.
Okay, what if there were an elopement, small wedding package without music, just a wedding?
Well, my concern with that is it starts out that way, but it doesn't end up that way.
Okay.
You know, somebody starts saying, well, you know, my daughter just really wants to get married this Sunday and, you know, she's got this special friend's going to sing for her. What do you do then? You tell her no? And then they move the venue?
Yeah, I would tell her no if that would put my business at risk. I absolutely would. You know, if that's a part of my ordinance that I have to keep, I sure would.
I'll yield to you, Mike.
Like I said, the noise was the main thing, but also, you know, if there's a lot of traffic,
Sure, I
you know,
get it.
have a time when there's not a lot of traffic, you know, so people can enjoy the Sunday around the community. So like I said, I mean, if you're gonna have what would you say before, a
Craft class or
craft or homesteading, or I think you said that before. I mean, I don't think you're gonna have 150 people show up to learn how to can.
Well, I would suggest that we just say 12 to 6 and I don't know, Craig. No music inside with, okay, so no,
To agree to half of the Sundays in a month?
For what?
I'm not limiting you to, it's just that day.
Yeah,
From hours of 12 to 6.
12 to 6, I understand.
Yeah, and it's just, you know, like you said, if the DJ comes in, that's the kind of stuff, you know, you really don't want to have on Sunday afternoons because you're outside trying to enjoy your own yard.
Right.
Just a suggestion.
All right, so where are we? They can operate on Sunday 12 to 6, but not weddings and music.
Thank you.
Mike?
Yep, that's fine.
Right. All right, so the fencing, buffering, the noise issue, time of operation. One more question. You had said 9. Were you talking about 9 o'clock on Sundays or during the week and weekends as well?
Originally, the hours were till 9 o'clock on Sunday. It was 10 Monday through Thursday and 11 on Fridays and Saturdays.
All right, so we got fencing, buffering, the noise issue, time of operation, 10 o'clock. And then Sunday is, what did we say, noon to 6 for classes. Okay. All right, so with those conditions in place, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Any other discussion? Wow. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, opposed? All right, thank you. All right. What do we, Ed, how long do you think this will take? Be pretty quick, won't it?
5 minutes or less.
All right.
Sounds good. So in the recent past, the staff members that are more or less involved in the administration of the addressing ordinance noticed that we needed to make some changes. That group consisted of folks in the planning department, telecom, 911, as well as the county's GIS division. And what we've got here are those that ad hoc committee's recommended changes to the county's addressing ordinance. And so I'm going to go through this really quickly. I'm going to tell you that you don't need a statement of reasonableness. You don't need a statement of consistency. This has not been reviewed by the planning board, as it's not a land use ordinance per se. So this is just really what I would tend to say, some streamlining and some housekeeping matters. And I think you'll address, or you'll agree with me. So in the definition section, we updated the fact that the addressing program administration.
And can you expand that for those of us that are visually impaired? Make the print bigger.
You know what? If you can listen to me and trust me, you'll be done that much quicker. I'm going to rely, if you really are that interested, I think our folks in the back can maybe do it, but I'll tell you, we're here in the address program administration section. This is the definition portion of the ordinance. The strike throughs, as we typically do, are the things that we're proposing to eliminate. The bold italicized text are things that we're changing. So the address program administrator in this particular case now includes the GIS division, as well as planning and development department and emergency services telecommunication division. And they're the folks that are responsible for administration of the ordinance. Commissioner Klusman, if you would like, perhaps if you turn around, did a 180, you might be able to see it there. And I apologize, I don't know exactly how to make that text any bigger in this format. So, and looking at page 2, campers previously were not seen as an individual structure to be addressed. They were addressed based on a lot number. In this particular case, we're saying that these are considered addressable structures and are assigned an address associated with the campground road they are located on. Shouldn't be any surprise there. As we're moving through the ordinance, one thing I would point out to you here, previously the board never has seen unanimous petitions. Those would be 100% property owners that are in favor of a road name, but due to some statutory revisit. We are of the opinion at this point that they do need a public hearing to be official. So the board will now see those as a consent agenda item. We'll do just a batch hearing and get them processed. Shouldn't be a big change there. There's some other changes as we go through. It's where it used to say planning department, and now that's been changed to the APA. You'll notice in address reassignment here, that's been stricken. And what happened there is that if your address were changed by either the planning department or the GIS folks, you didn't really have any recourse. It was an administrative function, and that has now been changed. And you'll see in just a minute how we've changed the ordinance to make it more equitable in terms of the participation in the program. The other thing is you'll notice here in subdivision roads, we used to hold a proposed road name for 1 year. There's really no value in doing that. That's in the preliminary plat phase of projects, and a lot of times it takes them at least 24 months to start work. We found ourselves kind of in a pickle with a couple different projects where they had submitted a road name 3 or 4 years ago. They show up with a plat. It's in a municipality, and that name has been duplicated somewhere else. So we're just saying, you just need to take care of that at the time you're getting ready to do the final plat process. You can't sell the lots or address them anyway, so that's the time to do it. The other changes you'll see here is that we have some criteria that says we use the National Emergency Number Association civic location data exchange format standard as a guide for establishing or accepting road names. It's a long acronym. The NENA CLDX provides guidance, and it's just a fancy way of saying if you've got road names that are a problem to pronounce, they're duplications, they're homonyms like bear and bear or pin and pin, we're going to probably tell you those road names don't work. We're just trying to itemize what those problems are. Can I move the page down, please? Okay, so this is the bulk of the change. We talked a little bit about an appeal. We haven't had an appeal process before, so we've included one. The way this works, if the property owner, an occupant, or a tenant, or maybe their authorized agent thinks that we've made a decision erroneously, they can file an appeal within 10 days of receiving that notice. And so they submit a written appeal to our office, and then we'll gather the folks involved in the process. 911, GIS, our office, and quite frankly, the biggest benefit to us would be the fire department or the EMS responders. You know, we need to know what they're seeing out there in the field, why the change was requested. We'll evaluate it. We'll make a decision. We'll respond to them. If the appeal is granted, there's no further action. Their address stays the same. If we continue with that same train of thought, they have the ability to appeal that decision to the Board of Commissioners. And so it would be, wouldn't be a public hearing. It'd just be an administrative or a legislative type decision, I guess. But they'll come before you. Staff will be here, and we can talk about why an address change is warranted, and they'll tell you probably why one is not warranted. So let's hope we don't have many of those to deal with. Next page, please. Next page. Next page. Next page. Okay, enforcement. Most of what was in here treated violations as a misdemeanor citation, and what we've done is to change this to civil penalty. And you'll see here that if they've got a problem, we issue a warning citation. The first citation, $25. Second is $50. third is 100. This sort of follows the format that's in the zoning ordinance as well. So those are the changes. And so the public hearing's been advertised. There's probably no one here to speak because it's such a great change. But I'll be glad to answer any questions, and it's been almost 5 minutes.
I just have one really quick question. Can you go back to page 9, please? Just one.
Who would have a
Ed, if you want to click within the window, it'll give you control again. Aaron was trying to zoom for you, but there's things blocking it. We apologize.
Thank you, April. Okay.
The display of road address numbers. Now, I've talked with some residents about this and some of our emergency folks. Is there going to be a specific reflective, consistent number? I mean,
We did not change that. That appears to be in there a minimum of 4 inches in height.
okay. You've already answered my question.
Yeah, we didn't change.
So, one of the things that some of the communities have done is to use the reflective numbers and put it on a post right next to sometimes the mailbox post can work, but for the most part, it's like same height, same place, same, and be really reflective. And I assume that this is going to go for any driveway to any type of parcel. Okay. So what I'm really asking is, if a farmer has field, is the driveway going to get a number? So if there's a fire way in back in the trees, they know where they're going.
So if there are more than 2 structures on a private driveway, and you saw that instance tonight with Double Thumb, and then you had the other roads branching off of it. If there's more than 2 structures on a private drive, then that driveway becomes a named road and they have an address associated with it. So our policy has been to place signs where those new road names branch off. But I don't think you were asking this, but if there's not a structure there, there's not an address assigned to it. We typically only, and that's correct, right, Alan? So we would only assign an address to a structure, yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
All right, any questions for Ed? All right, hearing none, then we're going to have a public hearing. We'll open the floor to public hearing. Are there hordes of people that would like to come up and talk about this issue? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and
Make a motion to accept the amendments.
Second.
is that enough? Is that enough? Just to accept the amendments as presented?
And you need to adopt them.
Make a motion
To adopt the amendments as stated.
The clerk would give me a hard time otherwise.
That's fine. And we have a second?
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Can we
Thank
amend
you.
that where Ed has to stay the rest of the night?
Bye, guys. Kelly? Is yours 5 minutes or less?
Very simple. It's just a, I may have Carolyn come up here with me. We have a request to remove some restrictions that are in the ordinance now, and also subsequent personnel policy that matches the ordinance that restricts the types of boards and committees that employees can serve on. My understanding, we haven't looked at that ordinance since the early 80s. I'm not quite sure the history behind it, but I do know, if I'm not mistaken, and Carolyn, please help me out, I do think that we do have employees who are serving on some committees right now that may be in violation of the policy. And some concerns that there might be some restrictions on serving the community.
Mr. Attorney, can we just do away with this? Yes. Strike it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and strike language from the ordinance and then also vote to remove that as policy.
You making that motion, Jim?
Yes, I would like to make the motion that we just.
Okay. Doesn't say anything. Let's open the public hearing. All right, we'll open the floor to a public hearing. We are going to change the ordinance and the policy to allow folks that work for the county to serve on boards. Anyone like to speak to that? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Do we have a motion to both change the policy? Okay, Jim.
I make that motion.
I'll second it. Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thanks. Thank you, Kelly. We did this on purpose, just to mete out retribution to our educators, over our lifetimes. We're sorry that we had to take this out on you, but all of those classes that we had to sit through. Payback. Yeah, it's payback. Well, we're sorry for that. Aaron, do you want to talk about that? You have something that you want to bring up, don't you?
Sitting and haven't had anything, and we can make this short. But I wanted to introduce you. Last month you met Anthony Mack, our truck driving student, and he got an offer of a job here. I found that out by making this presentation. I thought this was great. It was part of Better Jobs, Better Lives. So you're seeing this stuff working right in front of your eyes. What we have right now is a need, a formal request to use some property at Westfield Plaza for a temporary truck driving range. Truck driving range is really important. We've been at the stadium for the Intimidators that is being sold. And in fact, it was vandalized, I think 2 weeks ago, and that's why we've had to move. So we thought, who could we turn to in our moment of need? And it certainly was Rowan County Commissioners. And so we'd like to make a formal request of that. I wrote a letter to Aaron. I think he shared it with you. We have a PowerPoint if it's still available that just has a little bit and piece of what we're talking about and a map. And we're ready to answer any questions because I have with me Dashina Mahata, who is the account manager for truck driving. She also helps run the Manufacturing Institute, and she's a great recruiter because we now have 300 people on a waiting list for this truck driving school. And Jonathan Chamberlain, who's our chief of college environment and does all of our work with building and grounds and those kinds of things. So the truck driving industry is really huge. We went into it in 2016 and we didn't buy anything because we didn't know what that commitment would be here. It really got mixed reviews. We went into partnership with Caldwell Community College and we used their trucks. That's why our name's not on it. And so we split the revenue of the FTE with them. We now have 3 courses a year that we can do. So we're limited by when they let us use the trucks. We could probably have a lot more than that. Classes are 18. We've got 300 on a waiting list. That should tell you what the demand is. There are 757 jobs waiting for truck drivers in our region. And we've got all these big fulfillment centers that need truck drivers. If not now, the ones that are coming, Chewy, Amazon, all of those. And this job is great because it can turn somebody's life around like it did before. And people can make $50,000 to start, over $100,000, not too much longer after that. And we have a 97% placement rate. We don't have any more successful program than this, particularly for the time invested. And, it's a very short period of time to a very lucrative job that gets you some independence. You can build your own business. It's just got a lot of things that are going for it. I would like to see us have a permanent solution and permanent trucks and all that, but we don't have the money for that at this point. So what we need is a solution for now. And so our request is to be able to use, and we'll just flip through these if you don't mind, Carolyn. Go to the next slide. I didn't even introduce myself. I'm Carol Spalding, president of Rowan Cabarrus Community College. And so this is a little bit about what the trucks are. There are 5 trucks, they're not loaded. And so there's a lot of practice. We don't want anybody going out driving a truck that's not qualified and not skilled. So let's go to the next slide, please. Okay, so I just already told you this, which is about the demand. And the truck driver training program is really, it's just an answer to a lot of people's prayers. Okay, the next one is just our temporary use of the West End Plaza. And then these are the 3 classes that we have set up for the rest of the year. And then it's an 8 to 5 commitment for that piece. And if you'll go to the next slide, you'll see a part of the parking lot. The road continues to go around the parking lot so you can get around it on all sides. And you can see a truck sitting in there, strangely enough. And so there'd be 5 of those that would be backing and learning how to park and accelerate and all that. And then they go out on the roads and spend 300 hours of training in total, 65, I think, in classroom and the rest of it, you know, actually driving the truck. So that's what we need. And we'd love to have a good solution to this. And we appreciate your support for today's time, even though you kept us waiting. I mean, I get that. But we really need a solution to the truck driving program.
Carol, can I ask you one question? Dr. Spalding, can I ask you one question, please? You may have mentioned it and I just overlooked it. Having a placement of 97%, I assume these students have their CDL license upon graduation. Okay, thank you.
And frankly, we've got 2 kinds of licenses, and we can go down that if you want to know more about it. Tashina can, where'd you go? There she goes. Yeah, come on. So what kind of licenses can they get?
We were running Class B before COVID, so that one is temporarily, we're not running that right now. We're just doing Class A. That's where the highest demand is for the classes. So right now it's Class A.
Is that an 18-wheeler Class A?
It is.
Okay. Class A, 18-wheeler.
I'm sorry, I
CDL.
talk about this all the time,
Right.
so I'm assuming that you know. With the Class A, you can drive anything that you want to drive. You can drive up to an 18-wheeler down to a dump truck. So it's the highest class of license you can have.
If this is so successful, why don't we have our own trucks doing this? And I know the answer is money, but.
The real issue is maintenance. The reason why Caldwell can have all these trucks and do all of those things is because they have the heavy diesel program at their school. So their students can fix it. That cuts down a lot on the cost. Because with student drivers, there's going to be more wear and tear to a vehicle. And unless you have that program where you can bring somebody in, it will cost us a fortune to get it fixed by like a mechanic.
I'm glad you're up here.
Are we not doing diesel mechanics?
We're doing light diesel. So that's like for your regular pickup truck. The other part of that, a lot of grants and things that we receive cannot be used to purchase equipment. That's a stipulation in a lot of grants and different funding that you get. We can use it.
That seems to be the easy part though, isn't it? Acquiring vehicles in your location is, having a location is your
You
biggest
need a
issue.
2-acre location. Yeah.
When we have,
That's flat.
we have one of the largest manufacturers of those vehicles in the world in our county. Have we talked with them about the possibility of helping us in this program?
You're talking about like businesses that actually have.
Freightliner is who I'm specifically talking about.
We have not been successful in getting vehicles donated. I can't say exactly if we talked to Freightliner, but we have talked to different people about donating trucks and things like that. But still the problem comes in, we need to build a program around it as well. Be able to service those trucks.
So have you talked to the big national haulers like Schneider Truck and Dominion and some of those other folks?
So the trucks are not the issue. the driving range is the issue.
No, I understand that, but I'm trying to follow the chairman's, because it's the first thing I thought of too. Because there's such a huge demand.
Right.
And if they can connect while they're in training, then it might be worthwhile to, for some of those big companies to donate.
Talks them a lot about hiring. That's typically what they want, is with the hiring part. They come directly to us for employees. That's why we have 97% success rate. Most of those students get hired before they even complete the class. They've already interviewed and they're just waiting on to take their final test and go on to the company.
I met a guy this week that came here from a communist country. He was a lawyer. And now he's over here driving tractor trailers. He owns his own trucks. And he says, what a great country.
Right.
Jay,
Yeah. So we've had some success with women also as truck drivers. In fact, we had one particular one, we've got a video of her on a national show where she's talking about becoming a truck driver and how important that was. And now she owns her own business.
She does. Her name is Clarissa Rankin, and she finished the program 5 years ago. She was the only one who was hired at the pharmaceutical place. I think it was called EDS in Landis, but she had all of her endorsements. So they were able to end a contract that they had with the company and hire her to do all that hazmat delivery. So when she bought her own trucks, they hired her company as their vendor. So she went on to talk about women in trucking, and she was just featured on Kelly Clarkson 2 weeks ago. Awesome.
A fun show to watch.
All right, do we have a motion to approve this space that's needed for as long as we can do it? Okay, all right, motion a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you. Sorry to make you so.
We'll come out and
wait so
we'll
late.
teach you how to drive. I think we'll have some
I
fun with it.
would love to.
All
Love to
right.
drive one around.
Thank
the
you very
parking
much.
lot.
Appreciate it.
Randy.
I'm not talking a lot.
I want to drive a truck in the mall parking lot and I want to ride. Right.
Is that in a closed session?
We can get that done.
I have with me Brad Worthern from Yadtel Xerius. I'll introduce him and let him give some slides, but I just wanted to set the stage for what he's proposing and providing, just so we can understand and level set there. And looking at all the different grant opportunities for broadband for continued expansion. Still note, Rowan County is not a provider of broadband or will be a provider of broadband, but the state legislation had put into the last budget bill $900 million from the state's ARPA funding in 2 different grant programs, one being the Great Grant. This is what Brad's going to be presenting for their submission for Great Grant for North Carolina or Rowan County in North Carolina for 4 other locations. There's also language in this budget bill that authorizes legislatively the authority for counties to utilize their ARPA funds as a partial match in this requirement to go before the state. State Broadband Infrastructure Office reviews all of the grant applications. We'll do a scoring mechanism, and they'll be the ones that determine who can provide the services and what money is available. So just note that this is a amount of money that's been allocated by the state is nothing we've ever seen before. It rivals exactly what we just had before with Yadtel when they were asking for a grant that nationally there's only 350 million. So at the state level, there's 350 that they're putting in. So bottom line is Rowan County's in really good shape if we have a provider that's presenting. So with that, I'll allow Brad to present.
Good evening. My name is Brad Worthen. I'm the Vice President of Operations of Yadtel, and I will move quickly out of respect of your time. I know y'all have been here a while and may still be here yet some time. So I'll be happy to answer any questions at the conclusion or during this presentation as you see fit. Okay, here we go.
Use the arrows on
Got
the
it. I got that. It took me a minute. I found it though. Okay, so just real briefly, we've been around since 1950, started off as a co-op, a telephone company. founded by its members. So we are owned by our members, by the community. We're a rural telephone company as a foundation. Obviously, that trend of landlines has shifted over the years as mobile devices have become more prevalent. We made that transition into internet in the early 2000s and then into fiber around 2010. And that has become our primary service is fiber broadband internet. It's a very high speed internet. We're in 7 counties currently. We claim Rowan and Alexander and Wilkes, even though we're only in a small portion of those counties. We recently changed our name to Xeris. So if you go to our website, you may see that. You may see us online, or our vans or our trucks labeled that way. We are the same company. It was just a name change to help us reach a broader group of counties and customers. So I will move quickly again. I won't go over the benefits, but just suffice it to say that we have the fastest internet in North Carolina. Nobody can do 6 gigabit speeds, upload and download at the same time that we can do. And that's to the residential home. So you can do your research. I've done it plenty. Some claim 10 gigs, but that's to a business and it costs thousands and thousands of dollars to do that. But we can offer 6 gigs into a home. Our primary speeds are 1, 2, and 3 gig that we offer in the home at a very reasonable price. And you can see that right here on the next slide. You can get a gigabit speed, upload and download. That's kind of important. Download speeds, everyone kind of knows to download something. You're streaming your TV, all of that is download. Uploading would be what we're doing with video broadcasting, telehealth, working from home. A lot of that requires upload speed. So it's become more important over the last couple of years. And you can't get those fast upload speeds unless you have fiber internet. I'm not going to go through this. You can look us up later if you want. We have very good reviews online. Our customers love us. We have over 40,000 customers. And most internet providers are not going to ask you to go on Google and look at them because they're not known to have really good reviews or to be loved by their customers, but we're proud of that. So I'm happy to look at that later. What we're proposing is a state-of-the-art broadband network. It's what we do in our current trade area, wherever we're at. We don't go cheap. We go with a product that's going to be around for decades and going to be able to expand as technology expands. We all know that technology is expanding quickly and the need for it is constantly adapting, and that's taking more bandwidth, more speeds as every year progresses. This solution we're providing, this fiber back, it's fiber actually all the way from our home-based territories to the home. There is a fiber that actually goes into the home. So we don't just back the neighborhood with fiber and then bring other cables into your house. So you get the fiber all the way. Now, obviously, there's a lot of benefits to having this in the community, and it attracts a lot of businesses and homeowners. So we'll skip through that real quick. The reason why we're here tonight and so quickly, unfortunately, we weren't given a lot of time from the state from when they actually released the rules to do our due diligence and look at the maps and find our costs to be able to provide this product into Rowan County. So we did it as quickly as possible, but the deadline is April 4th. So we only have a couple weeks. Obviously, we've been working tirelessly on these applications. There's other counties that we're working with as well. But we are short on a deadline here per the state. There's $4 million that is allowed per application to each county. And again, this grant is designed for your unserved population of your county. So there's underserved and there's unserved. Unserved means they really have terrible speeds and there's no way around that. So they don't have spectrum. They don't have anything good offered at their home or their business. So these people are struggling from an internet standpoint. This is a map of the proposed area. We didn't pick this area. This was selected by the state based on FCC map guidelines that are submitted by all the providers. We're required to submit where we have speed. So the highlighted teal, greenish teal areas are what the state has designated as eligible for this great grant. These are your unserved. I have underserved up there, but they deem it unserved, however you want to term it. This red area is also, these are your underserved. They don't have good speeds either. They were recently awarded through the RDOF grant, which is a different grant program through the federal. That's received a lot of backlash since it's been laid out. A lot of government agencies have allowed their grants to be eligible for these areas as well, because the problem with these red areas is those who received awards were given 10 years to build it out. And they also weren't given very much funds. It was like a 20% funding as opposed to the great grant and other grants that offer up to 85% funding. So the people that received this award, it depends. Some is charter, some is Windstream and Rowan. They were given a very little amount of money to build it out, and they were also given 10 years to do it. Now, whether they take the full 10 years, that may or may not happen. The bottom line is we're only eligible to look in this grant at the teal areas. We will also look at those red areas. After we get the award for the teal areas, there may be opportunities either through these great grant funds, and they're called CAB funds that may be left over after the great grant, or an additional grant that may come down the road, potentially through NTIA, that may be eligible for these red areas. So tonight, we're just, that's a little bit bigger picture. We're focusing on these teal areas, but just so that you know, we will look at these red areas. We're gonna be there. We'll expand into some of them naturally anyway as we pass through them and offer speeds to them, but we'll also look for additional funding down the road for them. And that would build out your entire county's unserved areas. This next slide just shows some of the fibers that will be built. We're focusing obviously on the northwestern part of the county and the southeastern part of the county near High Rock Lake. So to do this entire project will cost about $6.5 million, and it will pass about 817 homes. That's what's on this top line. The government will award up to $4 million of that, which leaves about $2.5 million remaining. We have to match 15% of that, which is $600,000, which leaves us with a remaining total to build out all of these homes of $1.987 and $137. That is the amount we're requesting as an ARPA match. The state is strongly encouraging counties to use their ARPA funds for this. It adds to the points in the application to help it to be awarded. And that's the proposal there. Any questions?
You didn't say anything about a time frame.
Yeah, that's a good question. We actually have 24 months to build this out, and that clock starts December 31st of this year.
Commissioners, if you have any questions, you do have a resolution before you that you can choose to adopt that would be the information that Yadtel needs to be able to submit with their application that is contingent on their award of receiving the grant. And that would be utilizing that 1.987137 from ARPA. So there's no budget amendments at this point. This is just allocating that maximum if they were to receive the award. And since there potentially could be others that may want to come, I have had contacts from other providers, and they're all looking. There may be something on April 4th where we're saying, so there's been an addition that Carolyn has provided that has the max of 1.987. So.
I have a question. So this might be a Jim question too. I don't know. Hopefully between the two of you can answer. So if we put in the 1.9, well, might as well say $2 million, how much does that leave us in the ARPA fund?
I'll defer to Jim on that. I will say it does not count. You are able to use the normal ARPA, not the 10 million exclusion. You're actually able to use that portion.
You're correct. We probably still have $8 million of ARPA money, not including the next 13 million we're going to receive.
Oh, so when do we receive the 13 million?
We'll receive another 13 million in May.
Okay. Okay. So, yeah, because, you know, I just want to reserve that little pot of money because hopefully the state will give it to us, but we'll see. Yeah.
Well, you know, we talk a lot about infrastructure and we're reminded of the fact that we missed our opportunity in the 70s for infrastructure and it's hurt us significantly. So we've got to do this. I think everyone agrees. So
Let's ask, what is the, how many grants are they giving us? What's the likelihood of us actually getting a grant?
Nearly 100%.
100%?
Nearly
Oh,
100%.
nearly.
I can say nearly because it doesn't mean that. No, I mean, if you take the number of counties, you can have 2 awards up to each location. There's 4 million. So one county could potentially have 8 million of funding. The other piece is the local match because, and I hate to say this, the board points, they're scoring. It's all laid out and it's actually laid out in the budget bill, how they score, which don't try and figure it out. Leave that to the state. So, but no, there's a lot of money for it. And there's potential other changes. As Brad mentioned, there's CAB as well. So, I mean, they have nearly $1 billion to work with on this. And I'd say the chances are very high.
Amazing.
If I could add real fast, the state of North Carolina estimates that to build out all the unserved areas in North Carolina would take about 750 million, and they've allowed more than that. So suffice it to say, they're not coming back with another grant for this. They're basically saying, hey, we've awarded enough to build out the rest of North Carolina's unserved territory. So you better make it work because there's not going to be another round 5 years from now. So there's enough.
all right, I make a motion that we adopt the resolution as presented that will allocate up to $1.987137
Second.
county ARPA funds to be designated toward the great grant applicant.
Second.
All right, any other discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you for being here again. Good to see you again. Thank you. Jim?
Yes, sir. Good evening, commissioners. Let's get right into it. Expenditures through February for fiscal year 2022, we're at $100 million, which is 3.9 million more than last year at the same time. Next slide, please. Revenue, we're at 123.1 million, which is 2.3 million more than at the same time last year. Next slide, please. Of course, our big 2 contributors, first one, property taxes. We're at $82.9 million, 1.2 million over last year at the same time, which that's through January. And our other big, next slide, please. Our other big contributor, of course, is sales tax. We're at 14.3 million, and that is through November, which is 1.8 million more than last year at the same time. Any questions? Go back to the property tax. Thank you.
So even the annual revenue comparisons are, there's, like, if you look at 2019, 106 million, that's year to date on 2019.
Yes, sir.
He was. And then last question, the cumulative expenditure comparisons. Do you have where we are in percentage of budget? Say from this year and last year?
I don't, but I can get that for you.
Want to know, are we in line with budget? All right. Thank you, Jim. Budget amendments. Do you have we have a motion to approve budget?
Got a
amendments?
question.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, I'm talking about budget
Yeah,
amendments.
yeah,
Why that big influx of dollars switched out for DSS? It was almost $500,000. What was that about? Your budget amendment.
In one of the budget amendments?
Yeah.
Where are you, Greg?
Well, I was on the computer because that's how I get mine. See it?
Revenue, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm looking. It's not the one that we crossed out the 400,000, is it?
Yeah, well, that's what is that a pass through from the federal government or something?
I want to make sure I'm looking at the same one you are.
Okay, I'm going to it again.
If it is the 464,000 that you're referencing, we've crossed that out.
Well, that was my question. What's that about?
Then they're in error. So that's why it's crossed out is
Okay.
not.
Well, that's what I wanted to know. That's a lot of money just to kind of disappear. And I want to know what it was
Well,
about.
yeah, that was originally submitted as a decrease in funding that we were going to receive. And that was, we found out that was incorrect.
Okay. That answers my
So
question.
that budget amendment's only for the $1,351.
It makes me feel a little better. Okay, thank you.
Make a motion now?
Make a motion, go into closed session.
No, to accept budget amendments?
So moved.
Yeah, go,
Aye.
go, yeah.
All right, let's see. I move the board enter into closed session in accordance with North Carolina General Statute 143-318-11A1 to consider approval of the minutes of the closed session held on February 21st, 2022, and in accordance with North Carolina General Statute 143-318-11A5 to consider real estate negotiations. Motion, do we have a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And we'll get started as soon as we empty. Motion to come out of closed session.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Bye.